We'll start discussing about our topic. The topic we are going to discuss is internal and external verification. We call this topic as internal or external moderation as well in some of the colleges or organizations. So we gotta talk about what do we mean by internal, external verification or moderation. What are the benefits of doing the internal, external verification, and issues about related to each of these categories, two categories, plus how we can address these issues. So with me, my colleague, he is there. So you're going to talk about these two areas. To begin with, by internal and external moderation. So in when we talk about colleges, especially under organization, colleges, institutions, training providers, especially apprenticeship providers, especially when they are teaching other organizations or colleges or universities courses or accredited courses, especially. So they have to comply with their policies, rules, and regulations. So before they send each subjects grading information, especially when they are following some kind of standards like the BCS standards, city and guild standards, so they have to send their assessments, subject results, assignments, everything they send. So before they send their grade or assessment, their documentation about this frequency, even attendance information as well. So they internally verify these documents before they send. Purpose is to prepare themselves for audits, quality assurance, and inspection. So internal verification is to verify everything for external audit or prepare them for external audit so that they're not penalized or they're not having any discrepancies in their system. So external verification or external audit, external moderation is the same, but conducted by the providers, partner institutions, or the courses accredited by any organization. So external verification is the external body doing so. So benefit or of internal verification is that we have verified data before it goes to external party, and external verification is cross-checking everything, make sure there is no problem with that, and results, assessments, everything in line with their government rules and regulations. So, like better performance is obtained. If there are any issues, it obviously we see when we talk about education system. So we can address those issues to get best talent out in the market. So these are basically ways to improve the quality of the system, education system. So if you can please highlight some issues related to internal and external operation.
Okay. So, with regards to internal verification, there may be there may be elements of bias at times. Obviously, this kind of goes against one of the benefits of external verification, which is whereby the grading and the evaluation is based on not based on the paperwork, so it's based on the students' understanding and what how they've applied that theory into the essay. Whereas, obviously, internal verification, I think that they might the student themselves might you might assume that the students understood everything okay because they might be quite chatty in class, or they might have a good bit of student participation, and they might seem quite engaged. But actually, when it comes down to it, they might not quite grasp the concepts and what has been the actual assessment outcome. So, with that, in that respect, internal verification, there could be an issue with that. I think, obviously, with regards to teachers themselves, they might be, they might have put a workload that's quite heavy, so they might have to get a lot of work done. But on the plus side, highlighting some of the benefits of internal verification. So there's that constant support from the assessor that you don't get from an EV. I think that the fact that obviously they're there and they're at hand to help you through whatever the assessment is a big benefit of that. With regards to, and this is something that I've found it's a bit of an issue for me with assessment of my students. So because I teach drama and performing arts, we assess the end of year performance or the end of term performance, and we record it for external verification. Now, obviously, as an educator, I'm taking into account how that student's grown over the period of time as well, and they might, particularly in a subject, moving more to my specialist subject here, but particularly in a subject like drama, whereby it's an ensemble piece, and that person might not have much to do in that particular piece, but you've noticed how much they've grown over that period of time and how much they've improved as a performer. It's finding that balance, because I can let that obviously have an impact on my judgment and my assessment of that student. But at the same time, I don't want it to fall into bias, if that makes sense, because I'm thinking that person's done really well. So I think there has to be a medium at times. I think we fall into that kind of grey area of how do we find that? How do we find that happy medium, and how do we keep the validity of the assessment, basically? But yeah, I think obviously you touched upon it there as well. Internal verification. On the flip side, you do see the students' participation in class, and you do see that you do take into account their attendance. On a student might just turn up and be amazing at written work, but their actual contribution to the class and their level of engagement and what they're actually doing and how their own growth, that's not reflected. That's not reflected always externally. So that for me is a benefit as well. It's a bit of both. It can be a benefit, but also a negative as well. In that respect. So yeah, is there anything I've not touched upon? Obviously, as well, one of the benefits of internal verification is that they know what's needed. So they know what's needed with regards to the qualification. The external verifier may have knowledge of that, but not as well an understanding as the internal verifier. Does that make sense?
So plus thing is sometimes especially for technical subjects, they may not have, because they are just doing audit sometimes. Some external audit companies, they may out more technically about some subjects. Can you hear me?
The sample size as well, Saeed. They might. Is that what you just said? Sorry.
Yeah, the sample size.
Yeah, or not cherry pick, but pick an essay, for example, that's not, or a group of essays that aren't particularly hitting the mark. Whereas over a larger sample size, it would be a more true to form, a true representation. So there is that. There is that as well. It depends on the frequency and the actual sample size that the EV uses, the external verifier.
Just a quick another thing that when we internally verifying their sample size, not a sample size, sorry. When we are internally verifying, sometimes if we have excessive workloads, sometimes we just trust the results or mark. Because, like we need to know how well our students are doing. So for the class teacher, it's easier, but your other person who's cross-checking everything, it's slightly difficult depending on the workload. So there need to be a third person who knows everything for every subject, because obviously just one person it's not enough to know computer science, pharmacy, medicine, every subject. And that's the point which biasness comes sometimes, or not just biasness, technical expertise come onto this.
I mean, yeah, it's just coming there. Other than written work, it's hard to evaluate contribution, engagement, student growth, any kind of practical aspect that might be relative to that subject. So external verification obviously has its drawbacks with regards to those aspects. I think. Yeah.
That's another issue what I have faced during my work as an assessor or in the college. Sometimes you require extra manpower to do all of these things, because the amount of work you get and you have for limited time period to do everything, to check everything, prepare the paperwork, and submit that paperwork effectively. That requires considerable amount of time, and you have limited amount of time when you are doing. So,
How do we address that then, Aid? How do we address that problem in your
so sometimes we basically require some extra people for a temporary contract, on temporary contract. So organizations they require some extra.
Would not
assessors.
and in which case it would maybe bridge that gap that we've spoken about quite a lot, and a lot of the issues that we've highlighted here, and also help share workload. If how strange, how best way to word this, if the external verifier or examination board were to frequently come in and see practical lessons, more so,
Yeah, that's the improvement side, which normally never happens, like Ofsted normally visits every 4 years. So that's a very big. Yeah.
And it's a bit of a gulf, isn't it? But rather than obviously Ofsted every 4 years would come in to more or less assess the staff and the organisation and how that's running. Maybe if an assessor came in with more so focused on the student, and then they can maybe go from how best to word this. So then the student's feedback to the assessor, the student's feedback, but also the IV, the internal verifiers feedback to the assessor could be an ongoing thing, rather than, as you said, once every 4 years or twice a year when papers are handed in. It could be frequent thing, and maybe whoever's doing the external verification could kind of take on board some of that workload. But again, I guess we're back to the fact that most of us are overworked anyway, and taking on more workload is maybe maybe something that can't happen, but it's there as food for thought, I guess. I don't know.
So basically, like it's all about, how you need to improve in organizations that internally they require more manpower, extra. Like some of the organizations, they have, specific quality assurance department. Many organizations, those who can't afford, don't have quality assurance. It's all down to the teachers. So they just need to cross check everyone's work. So that's the problem. So obviously they need to have effective internal moderation. They need to have uh, technically strong people, those who know how you are going to achieve better results. So, any questions that come to your mind?
No,
We have missed.
yeah. I mean, for me, a big point is the more practical subjects, or at times more vocational subjects, whereby a lot of it is based on social and situated learning, or kind of learning on the job. Um, that's difficult to be measured by external verification. It really is. So as I said, for me with my subject, it does have its downsides. And I guess working in FE, we come across this problem a lot. So the point I'm trying to make is some subjects, I guess, lend themselves better to external verification than others, and maybe that needs to be accounted for.
Thank you very much. I think we try to address as many aspects as possible in this short span of time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. I will just stop recording.